Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Greetings and salutations, and a big warm welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. On each episode, I try to learn more from the conversations that businesses are having with their partners and how together they're building a new future of work. And today, I want to learn more about how we can secure that future of work. So I've invited Joesph Salazar from Attivo and Rajkumar Repswal from Citrix onto the podcast to talk about all this and much more. But rather than reveal any spoilers, let's get today's guests onto the podcast. So welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me here on this program. My name is Rajkumar Repswal, Technical Marketing Lead at Citrix VDI. I'm a Citrix Certified Administrator and Citrix Certified Professional, having 11 years of corporate experience and close to 3 years at Citrix. Within Citrix VDI team, I mainly work on cloud services program, wherein I work with prospects and existing Citrix Ready partners to validate their product integration with Citrix Cloud, and the product could be deployed on partners' on-prem data centers or hybrid or multi-cloud. I also work on Citrix endpoint management, which was known as Zen Mobile before, and Citrix Hypervisor, which was known as Zen Server before. So related to these product validations, I work. So mainly, that's mostly I do at Citrix.
And my name is Joesph Salazar with Attivo Networks. Thank you for having me. I am a technical marketing manager here at Attivo, but this is actually my first non-practitioner job. I've got about 22 years of information security experience under my belt, doing things like incident response, computer forensics, strategic network defense, both civilian and military. So I am a retired major from the Army Reserves with 22 years of experience in cybersecurity, military intelligence, and counterintelligence. So here at Attivo, I handle pretty much all of the technical requirements for the marketing group, but I also deal a lot with the product marketing and engineering teams. I am the bridge between the technical aspects of the product and the marketing group. So I have to understand the products both from a very deep and technical level and enough that I can translate it to something that a non-practitioner would understand.
Well, it's a huge pleasure to have you both on the podcast today. And Joesph, just to set the scene, can you tell me a little bit more about Attivo's Threat Defend platform and essentially how you're helping protect the Citrix environment and Active Directory against the increasing number of threats out there?
Sure. So the Threat Defend platform has been around, we've been probably shipping it since over 7 years now. And we offer that platform to protect organizations from pretty much in-network attacks, right? So we're not looking to be like a perimeter defense. We're not looking to be like an EDR platform or something like that. What we do is we look for ways to augment existing security controls, and we focus primarily on identity. So we divide the Threat Defend platform into 3 different areas. The first is Active Directory protection, right? And that is composed of our AD Assessor and AD Secure solutions. Now, these look for, what these do is they do Active Directory assessments and attack detection, both from the endpoint and at the domain controller. And because a lot of attackers start with Active Directory, that's the first thing that they'll go after, and it is a high value target. We've actually dedicated a complete segment of our platform just to protect Active Directory. And again, that goes toward our protection of identities in general. And then we have what's called our Endpoint Detection Net, or EDN platform, and that handles our endpoint defenses. Now, this does include AD Secure, but there are other components that really handle credential theft, lateral movement defense, and reducing the attack surface at the endpoints. And then we have our Asset Defense solution, which is our attack detection at the network level. We do attacker engagement with our decoys, and we collect threat intelligence with that engagement when the attackers engage with or interact with the decoys. And because of the way our technology works, our decoys look identical to production assets because they're full operating system. So the way we look at it is identity is the primary function that attackers go after, And then everything else within our portfolio sort of builds and supports protecting everything from identity forward. So it is an identity-centric security solution that has additional capabilities that allow for engagement and threat intelligence collection.
I'm curious, from the conversations that you're both having with your customers, what are the top security concerns around remote work right now? Are there any trends? What are you seeing there?
Since the COVID-19 pandemic started, all the enterprises, organizations had to shift almost their entire workforce to remote, right? I mean, allowing entire workforce to work from home or work from anywhere. It's not that the remote work culture wasn't there before, but not at this scale. And shifting entire workforce to remote was a huge challenge for many companies, and some of those are still struggling with. And when we look into the depth of this, now that we know that most of us are able to work from home or anywhere, and we could easily access the cloud-based applications like SaaS apps, web apps like Workday or Salesforce, but we still have the legacy applications running on old hardware or core business sensitive applications, desktops, which are running on on-premise data centers of individual companies, right? So providing seamless access to such applications, such legacy applications, resources in a very secure manner is still a security concern. The other challenge of working remote is using personal or BYU devices. I mean, most of these employees are using BYU devices, which may not be protected as per the IT or security standards. So accessing all legacy or core business application outside of the company network on these unmanaged device or personal devices brings a security challenge for most of the organizations. So if we collectively combine these challenges, the number of threats are increasing this drastically in last or have been increased drastically in last 1 year, being the threats to businesses or threats to data or threats to devices. These are the most top security concerns around the remote work we are seeing.
And Joesph, at Attivo there, with the conversations you're having with your customers, are there any trends around the top security concerns that they're having around remote work?
Yeah, a lot of it does center around identity. So if you think about what Raj said, a lot of it is because the workers are not going on premises anymore. They're coming in from pretty much everywhere. The only way you can really identify them is with their enterprise or network identity. Now, identity is a very complex thing because when you talk about it from a cloud level versus an on-prem or Active Directory level, they mean different things to different people. But essentially, identity is how the network authorizes and authenticates an entity to give them access to the network. Now, if you think about how that works with a remote worker, well, you're thinking things like VPN or published apps or web-based applications or things like that, or things that live in the cloud. Well, an attacker that gets access to any one of those functions really can get access to the entire enterprise because of the way identities sort of span on-premises to cloud networks. And so what we look at and what our customers have been asking about is how to protect their identities, their employee identities. And we're not talking about like identity protection from a credit standpoint. We're talking about identity protection from a network security, authentication, and authorization standpoint. So what we see in a lot of what our customers are asking about is how to deal with that identity protection where you have a decentralized workforce that isn't going on premises. Now, on premises, it's easy. You have an Active Directory server or an LDAP server, and you can handle pretty much everything, endpoint related, and you have everyone authenticate, and you use, multi-factor authentication. But when you're dealing with the cloud, things get much more difficult, and it gets, because it's abstracted. You don't control the cloud environment. You control the workloads within the cloud. So what our customers have been asking about really is how to protect their identities, whether it's their employees or their applications and objects, because objects within the network also have an identity.
based on those conversations, it makes it much easier to identify the concerns and challenges that both of your customers are going through there. And Raj, how does Citrix help today's remote workforce with those security concerns for their day-to-day business working and working from anywhere and everywhere and on any device?
Yeah, Neil. So we discussed about the top security concerns around the remote work. And as we all know, the situation like COVID has created a need for flexibility to work from home or anywhere at any time. How does Citrix help this remote workforce with security for day-to-day business? I'll try to break it in three parts. The first one is there are many organizations that use Citrix technologies were either already prepared for such an event like COVID, or it didn't take them much time to prepare for it. The mobile-ready workforce have laptops and remote access to corporate applications and resources that are hosted on Citrix virtual apps and desktops, and access to SaaS apps, internal web apps using Citrix Secure Workspace Access. So unlike a traditional VPN, Citrix Secure Workspace Access provides a zero-trust approach with advanced security controls for managed, unmanaged, and BYO devices to access the corporate resources. The Citrix Secure Workspace Access consolidates single sign-on. It provides VPN-less access and the browser isolation. And it also provides the enhanced security controls that today's remote work environments demand. With this policy control technology enabled, any SaaS or internal web apps initiated from the Citrix Workspace app are actually gate protected from the key logging or screen capturing malware that could enable attackers to steal potentially sensitive data from the organization wide. And the second part is, what about the employees who relies on PCs in their office or on-prem infrastructure wherein the legacy applications and internal resources are running in? How these resources can be accessed securely? For such scenario, one option is to enable VPN access for these employees and allow them to RDP to their workstation PCs, but providing VPN access from untrusted personal devices is a security risk, right? There could be a malware on personal device that can spread over the network, or a keylogger could be capturing everything that is either typed or viewed on that personal device. On top of this, opening the internal network to any remote employee will bring additional risk, which many organizations won't want to take. So for Citrix customers who are having Citrix virtual apps and desktops, advanced and premium version already with them, there's a built-in feature called remote PC access. This option allows any domain joined PC to become securely accessible to remote employees without a need of VPN. Also, IT can enforce multi-factor authentication to further protect from malware stealing passwords. And the user experience also remains same with the remote PC access. And the third part is, we also have Citrix Secure Internet Access, which is a cloud-delivered service released recently. It provides secure access to web, SaaS apps globally. It provides a complete stack of security capabilities such as secure web gateway, malware protection, intrusion prevention and detection systems, and data loss prevention. So along with these security features, which I discussed, when we work with partner like Attivo on the joint integration, for example, Attivo's threat defense platform that brings another set of specific security features, which Joesph has talked earlier. By having such joint integration, it makes the environment very robust and secure.
And one of the things I love talking about on this podcast is how Citrix and its partners are both successful in their own right. But when they come together, that's when the magic happens a little bit. So, Joesph, can you tell me a little bit more about how you're helping to solve all of these challenges that we're talking about today by simply working together?
So a lot of what we do with Citrix really is sort of, think of it as the next layer or an additional layer of security around what Citrix has deployed, right? So if you think of a typical Citrix deployment, right, you have you've got your servers, your on-premises servers. You've got your virtual images, you've got your persistent images, right? You've got application servers, you've got your cloud connectors, you've got your cloud apps and desktop services. So you've got all of these things sort of spanning on-premises and cloud. Now, what Attivo does is it sort of sits behind and on top of that. So, for example, what Attivo does primarily is create decoys, and these decoys help protect identities. So if you create a decoy server, for example, if you create a decoy Citrix infrastructure server, right, and you make it look exactly like your regular Citrix servers, but it has no production value. So an attacker that's looking to compromise your Citrix environment is going to touch pretty much all the servers within that Citrix enclave, right? Because they're looking for those servers that they want to compromise. And any touch with that decoy Citrix server is automatically suspicious, because it has no production value and no one should be touching it. It's completely invisible to the regular users. But an attacker doesn't know this. An attacker essentially in your network is playing blind man's bluff. He's looking around for things because he doesn't have the internal visibility that he would need, which is why he would do things like discovery and reconnaissance. Now, if you extend that a little bit further, if you look at what the endpoints are doing, you can install our endpoint solution, our EDN solution, on the persistent Zen images. So anytime somebody loads up one of those Zen images, they're going to get our protection behind it. And so that's going to do things like look for unauthorized Active Directory queries, where if the attacker queries Active Directory looking for identities and privileges and credentials to compromise, the solution would actually hide the critical or privileged Active Directory objects like domain controllers, service principal names, and domain admins, and return decoy credentials in their place. Because one of the things that we do is we build decoy credentials that act as lures that lead the attackers to our decoys. So if an attacker, for example, does an Active Directory query and gets back results that look real but point to a decoy environment, and he follows those credentials, he ends up in our decoys. Now the decoys are going to record everything that he does, and you're capturing all this threat intelligence while the attacker is showing you all of their IOCs and TTPs. They're showing you the tools they're using, the commands they're running, pretty much all activity. So we look at it as because Zen is, by its nature, the way it's designed, it's relatively secure because you're abstracting the hardware and the functionality of the user system from the applications and environment that he's actually working with. Now we're actually protecting inside that environment. And if you think about what antivirus and EDR does, they go to a certain point and they stop, right? They're really good at preventing that initial compromise. But once the attacker does compromise an endpoint, and it's a matter of when, not if, you need a solution that will look for them as they try to move around laterally, as they try to compromise identities and jump from system to system. And that's where our solution really excels. Because as they're trying to find these identities, as they're trying to jump around, we do a lot of different things that make them, that misdirect them away from your production systems and into decoys that are harmless to your environment, right? So if they compromise the decoys, it doesn't matter at all because all you have to do is reset them. But you're getting all of this intelligence and gathering all of these TTPs from the attack. So that's how we help Citrix sort of, as we work together, this is how we help protect the entire environment.
Love that. And I think also something that every business has in common right now, regardless of their size, is I think everyone's trying to work out and understand what the future of work is going to look like. And it is increasingly looking like a more hybrid approach rather than wholly remote. But from a Citrix point of view, Raj, what does the future of work look like with respect to Citrix and Citrix Cloud?
So we discussed about that most of the companies had to shift their entire workforce remotely during the pandemic time. And now as the businesses start to think about returning to the office, one thing is very clear that some of the workforce will remain remote and while rest will divide between their work between home and office, right? So the future of work is about creating a culture that supports hybrid work model, as you also mentioned, with finding a balance between productivity and work life and to work securely while working from a remote place or working from anywhere. And personally, I believe that Citrix is already supporting this culture day in, day out. And so this unpredictable new normal is challenging IT security teams to rethink existing security architectures and identify new flexible and cost-effective ways to protect their hybrid workforce model, right? With respect to Citrix, the future of work is to secure all users and devices wherever they are with uniform policy by ensuring that the applications and information remains secure and accessible using single sign-on, no matter where work happens. Along with this, the key focus is to unify and simplify the work. That means whether at home or office or at a remote place, employees must have consistent and reliable access to all the resources, be it on-prem data center applications or cloud-based applications. They need to be productive across any work channel. And this all should be unified at one place so employees don't have to navigate or toggle around the different tabs and tools, which saves their time. With respect to Citrix Cloud, the future of work is to help businesses extend their existing on-prem software deployments or move 100% to cloud by creating and deploying secure digital workspace in a matter of few hours, not the weeks now. And while placing the sensitive applications, core business applications, desktops, and any other data resources to any cloud, be it hybrid or multi-cloud, with integrating with Citrix Cloud. So the key focus in terms of Citrix look like is to create a culture that enables hybrid work model and provide a balance between productivity and work life securely.
Joesph, for you and your team, can you tell me a little bit more about the role of Attivo and how you see that role in protecting the future of work that we've just talked about there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're really focused on identities now, right? And with that, the hybrid model that everyone similar expects, where you've got on-premises and remote workers, both working in the same organization, protecting that identity becomes much more critical because as you've got workers traveling back and forth, right? So you've got a remote worker that's remote most of the time and maybe comes to the office once every few days or a few weeks, for quarterly meetings, all hands and things like that. You don't know what's on that user system when he comes into the office. You don't know that there might be a latent threat that as soon as it gets onto an internal network will start to spread around, right? And so we look at our role as helping to protect those identities. And as I said, identities can mean the user or the actual device because objects have identities as well. And so as you look at how you've got an abundance of cloud usage, you've got users working remotely, you've got users working on premises, you've got the scaling from on premises to cloud, as well as the synchronization of identities from on premises to cloud. That's where we see the next battleground, where protecting that identity is paramount to making sure that the attacker has no way in, right? Because that is the first thing that they look for is they compromise an identity so that they can move laterally and get where they want to go so that they can find their targets and action them. And so we feel that from a hybrid perspective, as the evolving future of work becomes more and more emerges as more remote work, more cloud usage. There's still going to be on-prem, but there's going to be that hybrid environment. We feel that identity is where we should focus our attention so that we can protect everything scaling from on-premises to Active Directory to the cloud.
Fantastic. And I think the destination where every business would love to arrive at is the unified workplace. There's a lot of talk about it at the moment. So, Raj, can you provide any use cases or just help listeners understand your vision for that unified workplace?
Sure, Neil. So, Citrix Unified Workspace is a digital workspace solution that enables workforce to access their company's apps and data in one central platform. So basically, all the Citrix technologies are combined together here, and all the applications, desktops, or files which are published in the backend, be it on the on-prem or cloud, those all are being pushed to a single central platform from where any user can access from anywhere at any point of time. It provides a single interface where any employee can securely access all of their SaaS, web apps, corporate data files, and their virtual labs and desktops. And it also provides a high quality, consistent user experience regardless of the user's devices or geographic location or network. In addition to giving employees the ability to work from anywhere, Citrix Workspace simplifies IT by consolidating all management and monitoring activities into one single admin console, so the IT can monitor with the Citrix analytics and find out what is being accessed more frequently or what is being accessed less. And according to that, they can push those particular applications which are being accessed more frequently on the top of user's screen. And because data is not stored on end user devices, companies can use Citrix Workspace to provide remote access without compromising security. It embraces the remote work, enhances the work experience, and powers the mobility and powers the mobile productivity. On the use case side, thousands of organizations across the industries, be it the banking sector or government sector or healthcare or manufacturing, many more rely on Citrix unified digital workspace solution to drive their engagement and innovation.
I think any CEO now that's looking across that evolving threat landscape and all those scary articles that you read online, such as the people are the weakest link, out-of-date security patches, dangers of public Wi-Fi, and the list goes on and on. So, Joesph, are there any security tips or advice that you would offer to any businesses that are listening to this podcast today?
Yeah, I would say that if you look back at all of the major breaches that have happened, every major breach has had probably typical security controls, right? They've had firewalls, they've had proxies, they've had EDR, EPP, maybe some internal IDS, maybe some internal firewall segmentation, things like that. And it didn't stop the attacker. And so I would suggest, and my advice to any business listeners listening today is look at other solutions that don't care about the specific tactic or technique, but look at the ways that attackers attack and then find solutions that can stop or detect those, right? You all know that attackers are going to move laterally. We all know that attackers are going to go after credentials, that they're going to go after identities. So look for solutions that can augment your existing security controls, because those security controls don't just go away. You still need them, but you do need other methods to stop the attacker, because the attacker has ways to evade those current technologies. So my advice is to look for new technologies that can really augment what you're doing with your existing security solution and gives you more variables to be more active in your defense rather than just waiting for something to happen, right? A SIM is great if you want to read about the car crash that happened yesterday, right? That's what SIMs do. SIMs tell you what happened after the fact. You want to look for solutions that can tell you as an attack is going on that it's happening. And that's where new solutions, innovations in the marketplace, new technologies are really starting to make strides. So I'm not going to push Attivo, although we do offer those solutions. But I would suggest is to look for solutions that will help you really affect what the attacker can do inside your environment.
Excellent advice. And finally, Raj, can you tell me a little bit more about the Citrix Ready program and how that program helps in expanding a partner's business?
Sure, Neil. So Citrix Ready program is a technology partner program wherein we work with software, hardware vendors, CSPs to validate their product with Citrix technologies. Depending upon with which Citrix technology a partner wants to validate their product, we have certain test cases or scenarios defined already in our system. So when a partner wants to verify their product, they need to create a verification form. And by selecting the appropriate product type, they'll get all those test scenarios through which they can go and test their applications with Citrix. Not only this, we also help our partners by providing a demo or test environment in case if a partner does not have that to test with. So we do provide that for a week or two to test their integration with Citrix technologies. And once it is validated successfully, we list out those partner solutions on Citrix Ready Marketplace. What is Citrix Ready Marketplace? It is an online portal where customers or channel partners can find the compatible solutions for the Citrix deployments and requirements. So once a product is listed on Citrix Ready Marketplace, we also work with partner on joint marketing activities like creating solution briefs, white papers, conducting webinars to promote the joint messaging. So right now we have 6,000 plus active partner products listed on Citrix Ready Marketplace. And how the program is expanding the partner business. So by getting their product profile listed on Citrix Ready Marketplace, a partner can showcase their offering to 400,000 customers and 10,000 resellers. And if you'd like to join the Citrix Ready program or would want to know more about the program, you can reach out us at citrixready@citrix.com.
Thanks so much, Raj. And Joesph, for anyone wanting to find out more information about the work that you're doing at Attivo and stay up to speed with any developments there, or even contact your team, what's the best way of doing that?
So the best way to contact us is to go to our website at www.attivonetworks.com. And as an aside, we do have some free trials that we're offering for prospective customers, so that they can at least get a chance to experience some of the solutions that we have. And you can find more information about that on our website as well.
Well, I cannot thank you both enough for coming on the podcast today. One, for sharing the kind of conversations you're having with both of your partners and revealing some of those top security concerns around remote work. I've got a feeling that many of those words will resonate with people all over the world listening. But it's also great to hear about the solution and how Citrix and Attivo are actually working together to help today's remote workforce with security for their day-to-day business and this world where we're working from anywhere, everywhere, and on every device. But more than anything, just a big thank you to you both for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks once again for having me here on your program.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, Neil.
I cannot thank Raj and Joesph enough for taking the time to sit down with me today and share their insights, expertise, but also for sharing the kind of challenges that their customers are talking about all over the world. And of course, most importantly, how they're working together to turn those challenges into opportunities. But a big part of this show is not about me or even the guests, but about you listening and sharing your insights, your experiences, questions, concerns, and everything in between. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. Nice and easy to find. Remember, you are what makes this podcast special and why there is at least one episode going out 365 days of the year. So please keep your questions coming in. And also remember, if you need help launching your own podcast, you just want somebody else to worry about editing audio files and all that stuff, or need help ghostwriting articles for your business, you can learn more about how you can work with me at techblogwriter.co.uk. But more than anything, I just want to hear your insights, your struggles, how you're overcoming them. And if you want to come on the podcast, let me know too. But that's it for today's episode. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.